Hey everybody, it's Comic Crack. I want to do a shorter video for you tonight just about an underground comic artist, John Thompson, who was kind of in the underground comic scene for a number of years before moving on to other things, and as far as I know, doesn't have anything to do with comics anymore. Um, he had come up not too long ago from 70s comics. Old Underground Comics is his handle on Twitter. At 70s Comics is where you can find him, comics with an X. And he was talking about some stuff, and we just got a very brief conversation about the amount of comics that John Thompson had done. And I was looking through them tonight. It had been on my mind to pull out the few comics that I have of his and have another look because I haven't looked at his stuff for quite a while. So while I was looking at them and kind of doing a little bit of reading online, I thought we would look at them together. So these are the four books that I have. These two here are from 1969. They were both released, I believe, in the same month. I think they were both released in December. And then these are two issues from his three issue Tales from the Sphinx, which we'll also have a look at. But I think we'll start with the early work and just kind of talk about John Thompson a bit. So the little bit of reading that I've done out there, taken from Comics Joint, and also from an interview with him on nthmind.wordpress.com back in, looks like 2012. He was born in 1945 and had always, as he says, always had a interest in spirituality and mysticism and, all of these kind of very religious type of things, I guess, or metaphysical type of things, and they really present themselves in his artwork, and that's a side that doesn't necessarily appeal to me very much, but it is there. And in the 60s, I guess he lived in, grew up, rather, was born. How about born? That would be the word. He was born in Carmel, California in 1945, and then in the 60s moved to uh, right around Haight-Ashbury, I think is what it says in Comics Joint. I'm sort of skimming as I'm talking here. Got into art, did a lot of posters, met some kind of underground cartoonists, including like Joel Beck, Robert Crumb. So, and part of the story that isn't quite clear because there's a couple of different things about it is in the interview on Nth World, he claims that him, along with Crumb and Joel Beck, were the ones that kind of pushed for the Yellow Dog publication to become all comics. And he kind of gives himself and the two other artists the credit for turning Yellow Dog into what it became. What was it, 22 issues, I believe. Um, he appears in a bunch of the early ones, the kind of newspaper tabloid sized, which I don't own any of. It's something that I would love to get into eventually with the Undergrounds, looking to get these tabloid newspapers, East Village Other, etc. I think would be really, really great to see in person. Um, so with these two books specifically, his art is just phenomenal, and I mean you can see that here with some of the line drawing. See if we can get a bit closer and fix that focus a little bit. Something there. Um, you can just see that detail and the very unique style. He was asked. He has some passages in the what the heck is it called now? Estrin's The History of Underground Comics, and in some of the stuff that I've read, when asked about what he felt, how he felt about the other underground cartoonist, he wasn't really impressed with anything else that they were doing. It wasn't his thing. He thought it was very degrading towards women, and he thought that the way they portrayed like sex and drug use, he just didn't agree with. He So I should say that this video will be definitely not safe for work. He does portray a lot of sex in his comics, but it's done in a different way. It's done with um, kind of, you know, as ridiculous as it's going to sound to say out loud, it's done with the idea of two people kind of bonding, you know, a man and a woman bonding and becoming something different together, and the experience of that. He looks at all of that in a very different light. It's not about kind of breaking taboos. It's not about pushing boundaries. It's about kind of, you know, maybe displaying the beauty of it. So we'll start with the Book of Raziel. And again, for these two, sorry about shaky cam there. For these two, uh, I wish I could tell you something about the stories, but I kind of agree with the Comics Joint website. I can't really make heads or tails of this stuff, so we're going to focus on the art. And you'll see even in the second book, um, you'll see even kind of what looks like a made-up language with symbols and things make a heavy appearance in the next one that really um, I'm not really sure what he was going for with some of this stuff, what his underlying idea was. I think there might be an article written by Dan Nadell about John Thompson. I'm not sure where it appeared, but that's something that I just haven't looked at. I haven't looked for yet. So this one has just this format throughout the whole book, text on the left and then a full page. Like I said, beautiful, beautiful illustration. I'll just pause it there for you so you can get a taste. So in the Nth Mind article, he talks about leaving the comic scene in 1973 to spend his time helping others with their problems. I worked with those in hospitals or hospice, home care programs, and special ed school programs. Counseling was sometimes hard work, but mostly enjoying these people and what their families disclosed to me. After my MA in 1970, I did postgraduate work, earning some credentials and licenses. My favorite therapy lines are from cognitive linguistics and cognitive psychology, which are based more and more on neuroscience. So that's directly from him, from the Nth Mind interview. And then he talks about still being active in all sorts of political movements, including the Occupy movement. So still very active, and he's asked about in this 2012 interview, just talking about does he keep up with comics, and apparently the answer is no. His wife still does art, and he points us to her website. I haven't checked it out yet, but he just doesn't have any interest in it anymore by the sounds of that, or at least at that time anyway. I'm not sure what he's up to these days. I only did some very cursory kind of looking online, but like I said, regardless of the text and regardless of maybe some of the messaging that he's trying to get across, his art is just gorgeous to look at. I mean, it's really, really just stunning stuff. And I love the use of, you know, this really highly detailed backgrounds and hair, and then the complete whiteness of the human body, and even, you know, parts of animals and things. A really interesting contrast to put this detail in environment and leave the human kind of this blank space, which is incredible. This Kukawy comics, you can see here in this issue, and then some made-up text, and even along the side with who's featured in this comic. Another one from Print Mint. This one is in pretty rough shape, but I mean, just look at this. Like, it's just insane. I can't even imagine. Really, really beautiful stuff. Absolutely incredible. The time and dedication and focus to pull off these pages. Boggles your mind. I could see that, like I was saying, he did appear in some anthologies like Yellow Dog, um, but he didn't do a ton of comics. Like I said, I don't have everything. There's a couple that I'm still missing that, believe me, over the years I've had my eyes on, but his stuff doesn't come up that often when I'm digging, and the ones that do come up are these ones that I have already. Um, Look at this. Just beautiful. And I mean, it's one of the things we've talked about before that really draws me to some of these comics, and especially the underground scene of this time. I mean, this is early underground stuff. If we're talking 1969, this is some of the first out there, you know. The idea that these incredibly talented people with very singular voices were creating these comics just for the love of drawing and the love of the art, and the time period, you know, and the fact that they still exist today is amazing to me. Really, really amazing. And that discovery, no matter how long you're in a particular genre of comics, specifically Indian, alternative, and underground, there's always going to be some names that'll resonate with you differently depending on your experience and depending on how long you've been enjoying the art form. I mean, I can't say that this is something that would have appealed to me when I first started getting into underground comics. It probably would have passed me by, but nowadays I think it's incredible, and it looks like, because this is when I'm putting dates on the back, it looks like I picked these up in 2016. So something that I've definitely grown into and grown to appreciate. Like I said, it's the classic with some of this stuff where the art is beautiful, but maybe the text is just not interesting, or the storytelling just really isn't there. Uh, just gonna pause on this top couple of panels here because I love that layout, and I love that white space. Almost looks like a section of the drawing has just been erased. Really, really nice. Just focus on the pages there. There we go. So there we go. There's the first two books, and then in the back, a couple of full-page pinups. I can't remember. I was reading somewhere that one of these two had been made into a poster. I believe it was this one, but it's another area I just don't know a lot about. The posters of the time must have been incredible, and I can only imagine that there's a whole world of artists there as well to discover that that are just lost in time. But it's some beautiful, beautiful work. Leave you off with the inside back cover there. Thanks very much. We'll see you very soon with part 2.